Hi everybody, Royal Enfield is one of the most admired motorcycle brands in India.
The mighty Royal Enfield Bullet went around the world, found its home in India, where it became an icon.
It was the motorcycle that made Royal Enfield into a global brand.
This is the energy which makes the Royal Enfield the best motorcycle in the world.
No other manufacturer had built a bike like this before for full production use, and the rest of the world followed.
The Classic was the motorcycle that changed Royal Enfield's fortunes.
It's not just brute force, right? And that is the Himalayan.
And you would be shocked to know that in the past 25 years, while the stock price of Apple has shot up by 60,000% from the day of listing, if you look at Tesla and Bajaj Finance, their stock price has shot up by 17,800% and 1,26,000% respectively. Whereas if you look at the stock price of Eicher Motors, it has shot up by 3,90,000%. Yes, 3,90,000%. And while most people know Royal Enfield to be a legendary brand today, what they don't know is that Royal Enfield was on the verge of shutting down not once, not twice, but thrice in its history. And Royal Enfield was in such a terrible condition that first a UK company tried to revive it but they failed. Then an Indian company called Madras Motors tried to revive it but they again failed. And then even Eicher Motors tried for 6 long years but they still couldn't revive the company. And just when Eicher Motors was about to shut down the company, a 26-year-old boy named Sidhartha pleaded with the board to give him one last chance. And this boy ended up doing something so incredible that back in 2000, Royal Enfield had a capacity of 6,000 units a month, but they could only sell 2,000 units a month. But after Sidhartha took over, in just a few years, they went from selling 25,000 units a year to 50,000 units, to 100,000 units, to 200,000 units, and then to touch 400,000 units. And as of 2023, Royal Enfield has seen its sales shot up by 36 times to hit 920,000 units sold in a single freaking year. And today, Royal Enfield sells bikes not just in India, but it also exports bikes to 50 other countries all across the world. So the question over here is, when 3 big companies could not revive a brand, what did this 26-year-old boy do differently, because of which today Royal Enfield has become a global sensation? What were his business strategies that saved Royal Enfield from shutting down? And what are the business lessons that we need to learn from the iconic rise of Royal Enfield? This video is brought to you by Odoo. If you're a business owner, you know what a pain it is to manage customer relationships effectively. In today's fast-paced environment, scattered data and a ton of emails can make it very challenging to stay on top of things. Inefficient CRM can lead to missed opportunities and lost sales. In a world where customer interactions can make or break a business, having the right tools is absolutely essential. And here's where Odoo can help you out. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that is revolutionizing how you connect with customers through their CRM application. Odoo allows you to view everything at a glance with clear, organized cards. It effortlessly tracks progress using the intuitive Kanban view where every crucial information is present on the card and you can see the progress through different stages of the pipeline. It also streamlines communication by using the chatter within the tasks, and this helps you schedule calls, meetings, and access emails all in just one place. Plus, Odoo offers accurate revenue forecasts and customizable dashboards to keep you informed about your business. The best part is that the first application is absolutely free for life. So take the first step towards smarter CRM with Odoo and click the link in the description to check out Odoo now. And now on with the episode. The story of Royal Enfield began with World War II, and the bikes of Royal Enfield were born out of the fires of World War II.
Poland, September 1939. The German foe begins its ruthless march of conquest and sets the stage for World War II.
There's just one thing. I mean, if freedom is at peril, you've got to do something.
This little lightweight motorcycle that was used to be parachuted from the aircraft to help support the troops.
The Royal Enfield Flying Flea is the most fantastic story
But after the war, when the civilians started using these bikes required very high maintenance, they often broke down and they were super heavy to handle. So when the Japanese bikes entered the market, Royal Enfield as a brand died a miserable death. But this is when the company found a market in India and started selling to the Indian Army. Soon enough, all thanks to Nehruji, they started manufacturing in India and became the favorite bike of the Indian Army. But again, it was the same old terrible product that survived just because India didn't have enough options. But again, in the 1990s, just like in the UK, when India got liberalized, several Japanese bikes entered the market, and just like in the UK, they killed the sales of Royal Enfield. And just when the brand was about to die, Eicher Motors bought Royal Enfield and tried to revive the brand. But again, even they couldn't do anything significant in the next 6 years. And this is when Sidhartha Lal took over Royal Enfield. So the question over here is, when the Britishers couldn't turn the company around, when Madras Motors couldn't do anything to revive Royal Enfield, after 6 years of struggle, even when Eicher Motors themselves failed, what exactly did Sidhartha Lal do different? Now, amongst the several things that Sidhartha Lal did, we found 4 important things that changed the fate of Royal Enfield in India. The first act was portfolio rationalization. In fact, Dr. Velamani once said at our podcast that while good entrepreneurs dabble with scattered brilliance, great entrepreneurs win with focused brilliance. And in this case, back then, Eicher Motors had multiple businesses ranging from footwear to apparel to even trucks. And Sidhartha realized that he wouldn't be able to focus on growing the bike business if he was too distracted. So the first thing he did after taking over was to sell 13 out of the 15 businesses that Eicher operated. Why? Because while Eicher dabbled with scattered brilliance, Sidhartha wanted to win with focused brilliance. The second piece of wisdom is perhaps the most underrated and yet the most powerful attribute of great entrepreneurs, which is the practice of empathy. And they say that great market research doesn't stem from Excels and McKinsey decks, but from the conversations that you have with your customers. In this case, in spite of being the son of a millionaire, Sidhartha got his hands dirty and chose to live the life of his customers to understand what the customers are going through. So Sidhartha got his bike and went on a road trip not for days or weeks, but for months, just so that he could have meaningful conversations with the customers. And in this trip, Sidhartha had rich conversations with his customers and he asked them, Bhai Sahab, why did you choose the Japanese bikes over Royal Enfield? What did you like about Royal Enfield? What would make you buy a Royal Enfield? And what exactly should they change to make them buy a Royal Enfield? And after he did it, he even made his employees practice empathy with the customers by doing the exact same thing, which is by going on a road trip and talking to customers. And after connecting with other riders and riding the bike himself, Sidhartha could identify 6 issues with the bike which no market research report could tell him. So the question is, what were these issues? Now listen to this very carefully, because this is the power of customer insight. The first issue that he could find was the packaging and transportation. And this is when he realized that while the bikes were being packaged and transported to the retail stores, a lot of these bikes were actually getting damaged. But the problem was that they came to know about this damage only when the customer started riding it. So do you realize, after you buy the new bike, you as a customer will find something faulty, then you will have to take it to the store and then get the bike fixed. So this resulted into terrible customer experience. And more importantly, when you buy a new bike and you see something faulty, it kind of turns you off, right? This was the first issue that Sidhartha identified. Secondly, he realized the problem with separate gearbox and the cast iron engine. And while conducting the empathy experience, he understood that this design was making the bikes prone to frequent oil leaks, because of which the maintenance cost for the riders was very high and it caused a lot of trouble to the riders. Thirdly, the outdated iron engine design did not comply with the modern and stricter emission norms, which also invited regulatory concerns. Fourthly, there was a kickstart problem in the bikes. And while all of the bikes had a self-start button, Royal Enfield bikes had a kickstart. In fact, one of my old friends even told me that the bikes back then had such a terrible kick mechanism that while he kicked the bike, his leg would hit a part of the bike and it would hurt him. Number 5, he found that the customers had issue with sales and after-sales experience with Royal Enfield. And lastly, as soon as new, cheap, lightweight, better mileage bikes came into the market, people started buying them because they didn't feel that connection with the Royal Enfield brand. It's like today customers buy overpriced Jordan not because of its features, but because of the emotional connection that they have with the Jordan story. But if the popularity of Michael Jordan fades away and kids don't understand the Jordan story, why would they pay extra just to buy a pair of Jordans? right? Same was the case with Royal Enfield back then. So with all this data, Sidhartha understood that the Royal Enfield brand needs to be aspirational. That aspiration will lead to an initial boost in sales. And when the sale happens, the products need to be super amazing, which will eventually lead to more brand value and will result into more sales. So the first thing that Sidhartha did was that he moved from a cast iron engine to an aluminium engine. And this alone gave some incredible advantages to the bike design. And if you understand the delta of the change that it brought to the bikes, it will blow your mind. Firstly, aluminium has a density of 2700 kg per meter cube, whereas cast iron has a density of 7200 kg per meter cube. So if you make a cube of 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, while a cast iron cube would weigh 7200 kgs, an aluminium cube would weigh just 2700 kgs. So do you realize aluminium is insanely lighter than cast iron? Now, for a typical 350cc motorcycle engine, this could mean a weight reduction of anywhere between 15 to 20 kgs. And obviously, when the weight of the engine is reduced by 15 to 20 kgs, you can handle the bike more easily, you can accelerate with less power, the braking becomes much easier, and more importantly, the bike also becomes more fuel efficient. This is the first superpower that aluminium brings to the table. The second superpower is better heat dissipation. Now, if you look at the thermal conductivity of aluminium versus cast iron, while aluminium has a thermal conductivity of 205 watt per meter Kelvin, cast iron stands at 50 watts per meter Kelvin. So, in simple words, heat can travel almost 4 times faster through aluminium than through cast iron. In fact, my physics teacher once explained that if heat is the car that has to travel from aluminium versus cast iron, while aluminium acts like a highway for heat where heat can travel quickly from point A to point B, cast iron acts like a bumpy village road where heat travels very, very slowly. Now, what this does to the engine is that while a cast iron engine takes a lot of time to heat and cool, aluminium will heat up quickly, and then when the heat moves out of the engine, it will reach the coolant quickly and it will cool down the engine also very, very quickly. So this heat dissipation reduces engine damage due to reduced heat stress. Thirdly, if you look at the casting temperatures, while the casting temperature of aluminium stands at 600 degrees Celsius, for cast iron, the casting temperature stands at 1200 degrees Celsius. And if you don't understand casting temperature, it's very, very simple. Casting temperature refers to the temperature at which molten metal is poured into a mold to create a desired shape. So obviously, the energy required to achieve a casting temperature of 660 degrees Celsius is far lesser as compared to 1200 degrees Celsius. So this results into both less manufacturing cost and less carbon footprint. And lastly, there is the advantage of damping capacity. For those who don't know, damping capacity is a measure of how effectively a material can dampen or reduce vibrations. In this case, when we say that aluminium has 3 times more damping capacity than cast iron, it means when the engine vibrates, the cast iron block and components do not absorb much of the vibrational energy, and they transmit these vibrations onto the bike. And this causes discomfort to the driver and also erodes the engine parts. Whereas if you look at aluminium by default absorbs a lot of these vibrations in such a way that even at high speeds, the bike moves very, very smoothly because it vibrates less. So this gives comfort to the driver, prevents damage to the engine due to vibrations, and also results into less noise. So do you realize, just because they shifted from cast iron to aluminium, Royal Enfield bikes had 5 advantages: lesser cost, lighter weight, better handling, less erosion of engine health, and most importantly, a much smoother ride. This was one of the biggest moves that Sidhartha made. Fourthly, Royal Enfield spent a lot of money on improving their transportation and changed their packaging to make sure that bikes don't get damaged when they enter the store. And lastly, Sidhartha deployed a very unique brand building strategy in the Indian market. So after his long tour on the Royal Enfield and after meeting with a lot of riders, he realized that Royal Enfield was seen more as an engineering and manufacturing company rather than an aspirational brand like Ferrari or Harley Davidson. So they did two things to connect with the customers. Firstly, they revamped their stores and turned them into hangout places for bikers where they could experience the Royal Enfield lifestyle. And these new stores had the feel of an international, retro, cool brand which no other bike company had. And you must have noticed that Royal Enfield brand outlets are so loud and so appealing that even if you don't want to buy a Royal Enfield, the store still catches your attention. Secondly, they created communities like Enfield Riders Community, and they also organized events like Motorverse.
Hello, Motorverse! This is the energy which makes the Royal Enfield the best motorcycle in the world.
There's just something about the new ones where inspiration has been taken. More than anything though, they're just wonderful motorcycles to ride.
So this community and new store design brought together many riders with the same passion for bikes, and more importantly, it created a tribe for fellow bikers to connect with each other and eventually connect with the bike and the brand itself. This is how, by spending time with the customers to find the most important problems of the brand, by changing the design of the engine, by building a brand value with stores and community, and most importantly, by taking care of the smallest things from the gearbox to the kickstart, Sidhartha revived a company that failed thrice and turned it into one of the most iconic brands in the Indian business ecosystem. This is the reason why today Royal Enfield sales have shot up by 36 times from a mere 25,000 units sold in 2005 to an insane 9,20,000 units sold in 2023. And this brings us to the last part of the episode, and that are the business lessons that we need to learn from the iconic rise of Royal Enfield. Lesson number 1. As Dr. Velumani once said, while good entrepreneurs dabble with scattered brilliance, great entrepreneurs win with focused brilliance. Lesson number 2. Great market research doesn't stem from Excels and McKinsey decks, but from the rich conversations that you have with your customers and your potential customers. In this case, in spite of being the son of a millionaire, Sidhartha got his hands dirty and chose to live the life of his customers before he tried to revive the company. And that is the reason why he was able to make the most important changes that revived the Royal Enfield brand. Lesson number 3. No matter how big a brand you are, if you have a bad product, you are only one step away from dying. At the same time, if you have a great product, even a giant can't shake you. In this case, Royal Enfield was big in UK and India both. But as soon as the Japanese bikes entered the market, they crushed the Royal Enfield brand with a great product. And at the same time, when Royal Enfield by itself built a great product, it was a dying brand, and yet it went on to beat the likes of Harley Davidson in the Indian market. That is the power of a great product. These are the lessons that you need to learn from the iconic rise of Royal Enfield. And I just hope you learned something valuable from this case study. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.